Hey everybody, it's sunset here in Ontario, and I was in the house doing some stuff, and there's been something that's been on my mind a lot. I'm going to do a few videos on this, but I'm going to start it with this one just to get you thinking a little bit, because I don't want to do an hour-long video because it's pretty extensive. So if you recall, during the pandemic, one of the things, and you can go through my video catalog, one of the things I always encouraged everyone to do was to think critically about certain aspects of things that were going on. I always put it as, using logic and reason. And so, and of course, we all know how that worked out, and I'm not gonna rub anybody's noses in it. I'm just glad a lot of my friends came through unscathed. However, as we're sitting now with the aftermath of the assassination attempt and the nomination, and as we pull through to the election and some of the tensions going on in Europe, I'm going to mention a few things just because I want you, not that I want you to worry, but I want you to begin thinking about what potential outcomes could be in the offing. So, it's a given now that the bulk of the population needs to be told what to do. It's not that they're terrible people or anything like that, but even in the Bible, the nation of Israel calls it for a king because they just can't handle not having singular leadership. And again, in the pandemic, it's more people rolled up their sleeves than didn't, and that was just associated with is it fear of making a decision or being different? I don't know, but that's just the shtick. So I want you to think carefully about something. So over the past year, there's been a narrative put out. We had I always talked about Sir Sniff-a-Lot, and this refers to Joe Biden's propensity to sniff children and do kind of weird things and his weird family. But there's been a groundswell over a period of time of really emphasizing his mental ineptness, his clumsiness, questions about if it's even the same guy, because there are, if you search on the internet, you can find different footages, that have him with slightly different features, whether it's a mask or something. I don't know. And so that, excuse me. Oh man, someone must be thinking about me. Anyway, so that is that constellation of him being an imbecile, okay? And of course, the real culmination of that was at the debates, where he was fairly incoherent, even just dealing with Trump in regard to some of the talking points. So that's where we were leading up to that. And then I want you to think about Trump. Trump was having, there was some questions. There's this extensive legal prosecution that went on for arguably some very dubious things. And dubious not only factually, but, when a layman looks at the prosecution and says, and can draw the conclusions that it's frivolous, it just breeds a sort of anger. So further to that, so the dubious prosecutions and the lawsuits from some of the quote-unquote hush money he's paid in the past to associates, to leading right up to the assassination attempt, which even that is dubious. They're starting to say now that there must have been two shooters. How did this kid get on the roof? There's also private footage from people there that were trying to tell the Secret Service it was going on. and no one paid any attention. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. I've seen enough Copperfield shows. Like when I was a kid, and I use Copperfield because everybody, when I say Copperfield, you're going to know who I mean. I've seen enough Copperfield performances on TV. Like, for heaven's sakes, they said he made the Statue of Liberty disappear when I was a kid, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's what he did. So, you know, or I remember when he flew across the Grand Canyon in a lotus position. Okay, the point is that whether it's Copperfield or some of these new magician guys, they can make a lot of stuff look a lot of ways. I'm not pointing the finger. I'm not saying anybody's evil or anything, but I'm wanting you to look at this critically. And the big critical thing to look at here is that, so the assassination attempt happened, and then of course he lived, and of course he's got the bandage on his ear, and then there's the Republican nomination, he gets the nomination. And I declare, I'm watching the nomination thing, I mean, like, they're treating this guy like he's the second Messiah. Like God himself has spared him from the bullet. And I certainly am, if that is all true, great. But at the end of the day, it is my feeling that there's, you know, everybody likes to bet on the dark horse, and or the underdog, or the one who's really prosecuted. Like, that's how Hitler came to power. He was very, very prosecuted, and then there was an event that happened that allowed him to all of a sudden take power. And again, I'm not saying Trump is Hitler, but I'm just talking about how that groundswell of support came into play, because I want you to understand something. If you ever hop in the video archives, you can see the thousands of Germans all Sieg Heiling Hitler. And this is a guy who mobilized an entire nation in a very short period of time to fight the whole world with some very good programming. And so now we have, you know, I think so based on the constellation of all this kind of stuff, I really believe that Trump is going to get the presidency again because of this whole dark horse thing. But it also plays into the prophetic narratives as our scripted reality. If you go back into my video archives, you'll see the old heavy metal comic book. The old heavy metal comic book had Trump in a predominant position. He was all doing really well, liked by society. Then he's demonized by the law and has to go into hiding a little bit. And there's a perverted force on the other side, which is Joe Biden is largely looked at as a pervert. And then Trump, there's some kind of groundswell of support, underground support that happens for Trump. And then he gets in control again, but ultimately everything is worse. So here's what I mean by that. So I believe Trump's going to get in, but we're on the precipice now of some, this goes back to what I've been saying to you again, look in my video records about the coming currency crisis with the American dollar. I think I'm going to do another video that's going to elaborate more on all these different details and things like that. But I think there is going to be I think the stage is being set now where Trump is going to look like such a messiah figure that he could tell people to eat sandpaper, and they will. And not that I'm saying anything terrible is going to happen to you, but there are a few things that I think everyone should be aware of. Like I've been mentioning with the little while ago, if you go back a year ago, I told you what was going to happen with the interest rates, and it's playing out exactly as I said. Go back even further, I told you what was going to happen with gold. But the only thing that I told you was going to happen, which hasn't happened yet, but actually has happened, was the war with China. We're actually at war with China, but what the COVID thing did is it showed the guys upstairs is that even when things get real bad, no one's getting off the couch. And so we couldn't even go to war with China because no one would get off the couch. But the war with China is that they are decimating us with their technology and making us completely dependent. And again, I'm gonna do a video on that and cover that a little bit more in detail. So anyway, just a couple things for you to sit back and think critically about. In the next couple days, I'll break this down a little further with some potential solutions. I mean, really, at the end of the day, the reason I'm doing this kind of stuff is that I really would hate to see people get hurt. I'm not going to be giving any financial advice other than what is good ideas, but I hate to see people get hurt making commitments that are going to come back to get you. Like as I said before, when the interest rates were, at around that 0%, I said, this is it. And I feel terrible for anyone who bought a house at that time, because right now, as they go in for mortgage renewals, they're renewing at double their payments, and that's only the beginning. So anyway, just think about this stuff and stay tuned for my ideas about how this is going to play out once Trump gets elected, and into 2025, and my forecasts about currency, world power structures, etc., etc. So yeah, one thing I don't say very often in my videos, if you want to subscribe to my channel, that would be great. I think I've got like 750 subscribers now, which is pretty cool. It means 750 people care about what I say on it sometimes. But if you're watching this video new and you want to subscribe, you'll get notifications when I put stuff out. I don't plan on becoming the world's greatest guru in anything. I'm just accessing some logic and reason here and putting it in a way that maybe you can understand it. Not only in regard to this stuff, but you saw the video I made last. It's just, best practices for a great life. And as I always say, people tell me I'm a good salesman, but it's not because I'm a good salesman. I'm just simply telling you guys stuff that you already know. Thanks, folks.